what you think is right. Let's work this out. But this personal attack shit, if you're talking about something as complex as the things that you discussed on this podcast, there's no room for bullshit. There's no room for bullshit. You're dealing with such highly complex
Terrence
ideas.
says that, and to his credit, I found that interview you were doing with them. but anyway, so Terrence was there, wigged out, and he was saying this thing.
Wigged out, literally.
Literally wigged out. And he was saying this thing. He said, look, all I care about is the truth. And that freed me up to come on, right? Because the spectrum of Terrence, from the best to the worst, is a broad spectrum. And he seriously wants to improve what he's doing. He cares about it. And if I can play a part in that, I think
I want to offer to you. I want to be able to show you the things that I tried to show Neil deGrasse Tyson that he would not even really take a look at and to see.
But
if
no,
it's
he did
valid.
take a look at it, right? He responded in a long video recently.
Yeah, but his response was disingenuous.
Guys, may I make a recommendation? Let's start with the ideas, because I think we all care about those.
Yes, for sure. But hold, please, because this is an important thing that just came
he
out.
was so disingenuous because I sent him a long email after he sent me back the red line thing, thanking him for reviewing it and saying, look forward to when we can discuss these things, because I sent the treatise to him so we could discuss that on the show. His whole point was, I'm going to bring you on my show and we're going to talk. So here's the stuff that we're going to talk about that I would like to talk about. He never followed up from that point forward, just sent one-line emails. Any other thing you got to go to somebody else. So he's pretended like, I was trying to be, very helpful, but that's not what the email trails show.
So he did make this one very large response, though. Right? He did. He did go over the treatise, all the red line stuff. He only has so much time. He might be in a position to defend him, that he might be in a position where he's like, look, I just said what I said about all this stuff. Good luck. But I don't have the time to sit here and discuss these things in depth.
And
Maybe
that's
great.
Maybe that's great, but it's like you invited me to come and do your show. I put this stuff together to come and talk to you on your show, and then there's no follow-up with the show.
Got it.
So where's the beer?
I understand it. I mean, I understand your perspective for sure.
It's like, come on, man. If you're
he might have got to a point where it's like a thing where he thinks it's ridiculous, and he doesn't want to engage it on his show.
Ridiculous. Amen. And I believe that, but if you got 97, 98 patents and 4 supersymmetrical systems that you're claiming you have, and all you need is someone to review,
have to jump in, and I don't want to do it this
that'd
way.
be great.
Listen, we're just having a conversation.
This isn't about Tyson.
What's the problem?
This is a colleague of mine.
Yeah, this isn't about Tyson, and I love him. I love him. I grew up watching him, and I appreciated him.
But what is the problem? We're defending him. I certainly am.
Because Neil's a complicated guy, and part of what's going on is that there's a problem in general, which we scientists do not behave honestly with respect to certain things. We'll make these claims about science is about communication and challenging ideas and all these things, and everybody can be a scientist, and all these sorts of things that we say. Science is interesting. Science is fun. Well, very often it's not interesting. Very often it's not fun. Very often you can't really say that everybody can do science because it's super demanding. We don't welcome people. You're a mathematician too. We'll say that to kids, and then the kid will say something, and then we'll say, "Be quiet."
Yeah.
And so, this is not peculiar to Neil. It's like science in general has portrayed itself as a place where everyone's welcome. We debate out the ideas. We have the scientific method to tell us what's true and what isn't, and that's disingenuous. It's not really how the game works. And this is going to involve peer review. It's going to involve people who are dual in terms of both doing research and being public figures. People who are public figures who we think of as researchers who aren't really doing much research. People who are, pushing crazy agendas in public without a recognition that their colleagues don't think much of what they're doing. I mean, this is a very complicated story that Terrence has walked into. And I have to think about my colleagues, and I have to think about how they hear things, what they will say. And so I am in part speaking to your audience, but I'm also partially speaking to 1,000 people who are seeing this at a different level.
But just for the record, like I said, I grew up watching Neil and having someone that was light-skinned, that looked like me, up there making these grand steps towards helping people to understand. I admire him. And I still would like the opportunity to sit down and show him these things and have that beer, because I think that he will be pleased once he sees the supersymmetry associated with it and understand where all of the passion came from. And I hope that other scientists will take a look at it, but that's the whole point of us doing this.
I don't know how serious he is about that beer.
No.
Right, because I saw him say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, that was a very complicated thing that he did. And it had many layers as to whether or not you took it on the surface, you took the hidden meaning, and you took the meaning below that. And so plunging right into that from the beginning, in my opinion, is not served very well by having the three of us here. Because the first thing is, what is the nature of Terrence's ideas? I don't think Neil actually understood some of your ideas, to be entirely honest.
No, and what he forgot is when I say 1 × 1 = 2, that's a metaphor for challenging the status quo. Despite the fact that the square root of 2 has all of its issues when you cube it or you multiply it by 2, which creates a contradiction, despite the fact that the square root of 2 has a problem with the prime numbers, the fact that they call number 2 a prime number, when it's clearly a composite number. Any other prime number, and I'll jump into this, any prime number that you subtract from another prime number, you always get a composite number, except with the situation of the number 2. And there's so many people and that's why the prime numbers are unpredictable, because of that problem associated. So there's been a problem with 2 for so long.
2 is different. I mean, you will find that mathematicians will often talk about proving something for characteristic not equal to 2. So they'll single out 2 as being just very, very different. So look that up when we're done.
Yeah, but why? But why would they do
because
that?
in part of what you're saying, the prime 2, it does belong as a prime, but it is also special. And in other words, I have the opportunity to strawman you if I want to, because what you just said sounded crazy. And I also have the possibility to steelman you. So all the algebraic topologists who just heard, for characteristic not equals to 2, they're like saying, yeah, that's fair. And so in part, by just jumping into the middle of this, we don't have the benefit of putting your best foot forward, because, if you say 1 × 1 = 2, everybody knows that that's crazy. But what you actually may mean, and the fact that you don't use certain terms, or the fact that you use certain pronunciations that communicate to me something very positive, which is that you taught yourself. You learned this stuff from reading about it, because nobody taught you, or you wouldn't pronounce certain words the way you pronounce them.
True.
Yeah.
True,
So, in part, you always have the ability to make fun of somebody who pronounces a word the way it's read on the page. And then you also have the opportunity to say, holy cow, that guy actually taught himself. That's more impressive. And
right.
So in part, what I want to do is I want to start by giving you your best foot forward and see if I even understood what you said when you went into this whole flower of life riff that becomes your larger theory. And the only way I know how to do this is to see whether or not I actually grasped it.